Hi, my name is Khaula. I am a self-taught local visual artist, and I just want to share some things I have learned over my art journey. And this is the third of a series of 3 videos that I'm doing for Arts Unite, dealing with some financial tips for artists. So in the first 2 videos, we discussed like maintaining a cash flow sheet so you know exactly where your money is coming from and where it's going, which gives you a bigger picture of what you can focus on to save yourself money and improve whatever is working and make some and bring in hopefully a bigger income. So this third video is about your art income. Where is your money coming from? As we've discussed, your art income will be coming in from art you sell at shows, exhibitions, and even directly from your website or social media. It is very important to keep your prices consistent. You may have a preferred client list to which you offer discounted prices, which is really great because you do want to show your appreciation for their loyalty. And that's also a really good way to build a relationship with return customers. But across all your platforms, you really should have the same prices. So pricing artwork, it is really important to price your artwork properly. You have to consider the cost of the materials, the time you put into the work, and the amount of detail, as well as your level as an artist. If you are just starting out, you might not want to price your work at $1 million just because you saw something that looks similar at an art gallery. There's a big difference between us artists who are just starting out and established artists with gallery representation. So dream big, but be realistic and humble. That said, you shouldn't be discouraged and don't think that you have to sell your art very cheap. And always be wary of people who approach you who say they will give you a lot of exposure in return for free art or services. Do your homework and make a note at shows and exhibitions to see how much other artists are selling their work for. Ask them questions. I find artists are usually very open about sharing anything that they've learned. So you can ask questions like, what formula do they use to price their work or their services? You can visit the Carfax website to see the artist schedule for that year. That is always really helpful, especially when you're just getting started. I find the easiest formula for me is to multiply the length by the width of the work to get the square inch area of the piece, and then multiply it by $1 or up, depending on the amount of detail in my work and what kind of material I used. If I used something that is more expensive, for example, like resin, I might want to multiply that area of the piece by $2 or $1.50. Never compromise on the quality of material. There is, for example, cheaper resin available. I would not recommend buying that. It does yellow faster and the fumes are kind of questionable. So always be very careful with your material. That said, do look for supplies that go on sale. So when pricing my work, for example, if I have a normal acrylic painting that measures 10 inches by 10 inches, I might charge $100 for that. I got that by multiplying 10 by 10 and then multiplying it by the $1. So if a painting, but if that painting incorporates something like resin, I would charge maybe $150 or $200. And if that painting is a hyperrealism piece, then I would charge probably $200 or more. And I would get that calculation by 10 by 10 inches times $2 or $2.5. And as your career goes forward, you will find that those numbers will increase as you gain more skill and reputation as an artist. Another thing you need to price properly is your service. For pricing your services, I think the best place would be to visit the Carfax website. Their website gives a fair amount fee that you should charge for the number of hours of service. You really should not get paid less than the Carfax fee schedule. And remember that even if you're just starting out and someone is offering you a lot of exposure for your services, that doesn't mean you should not get paid. I mean, does it make sense to work for them and then pay them? So maybe they are an organization that's also just starting out and they don't have a budget and are doing an event for the first time. Maybe work with them on a barter system, because exposure does not mean much. So you could ask them if they would be willing to supply you with the art materials that you'd require to create the piece, or instruct the session that they asked you to do. And always check their social media and their website to see if they've actually started promoting artists or the other vendors. Never be afraid to say no. In the beginning, I got asked to do a lot of things for free. People asked me for free work, free paint nights, and I learned to say no very early, and I do not regret it at all. Once people who are looking for freebies know that you are serious, they will stop bothering you, and your real customers will start coming in. And this really works. It does happen that way, and don't worry about it. It does take time, but that time does come. However, if you don't learn to say no early and continue to give off your art and services for free, you will start to feel tired, because yes, a lot of work goes into that, and even a bit bitter. That is when your passion can turn into an unpleasant burden, and the more you delay saying no, the harder you will find it to say no. And to be honest, people can sense when they can take advantage of you. Then there are projects. So when you're applying to projects, there's usually a budget given to you, and it is up to you just to decide whether that budget is worth your time and effort or not. Applying does take time, so you really want to make sure that it's worth your time and effort. Sometimes it's okay to go for a project offering a little less than the ideal amount because you're just starting out and you want some projects on your CV, or you want the experience of working with that particular organization because you know it will be a good learning experience for you, and it might be a good networking opportunity. There are some projects that will ask you to submit a budget, and in that case you really need to do your homework and find out the cost of the material you'll be using, any rental equipment that you may use, the amount of time for the actual work, that is the actual hours that it will take to create that piece and prepare for the entire project itself. And again, I find that Carfax is like probably the best place that will give you a good idea of what you can fairly charge for the amount of hours you put in. Another really important thing to keep track of when you are doing projects especially is to track your projects. In the beginning, you may get like 1 or 2 projects and you figure, why would I put in so much time to track, the project and all the details of the project. However, over time, you will find that you will need to track your project as your schedule gets filled with more and more projects. You need to keep them organized as deadlines and themes, and even how much you were supposed to get paid and when starts to get all mixed up. I find the best thing to do is start by creating a folder in your email account to move all your project-related emails into one place so that it's easily accessible when you are going back to see what the dates, deadlines, and what the themes were, and how much, of course, you need to get paid, and whether the payment is going to be in bits and pieces or it's going to be all in one place. Also, I find it's good to keep track of your emails that way, because sometimes your inbox gets really full and it's very easily to accidentally delete a very important email. The next thing you can do is start putting all those projects into a table which helps you see deadlines, themes, and other details like the payment dates and whether or not, of course, the payment is going to be made in full or over a period of time, as well as a checkbox to make sure that you've completed all parts of that project. I've made myself a simple one on Word, and I'm going to add it in a link so you can download it and use that as a template. Make sure to keep track of payments. I find that, especially the ones that are paid out over a period of time, organizations get very busy, and sometimes they have new employees coming in and going out. So things like was a payment made or not can slip somebody's mind, and if they forget, you shouldn't. Another really important thing to keep in mind is finding your ideal client. So once you have a clear picture of where your money is coming from, you can analyze who and where your ideal client might be. Always write down a strategy or a plan. It can be something really simple like just a list of shows or events that you know are worth your time and effort that you want to participate in, or it can be more detailed like targeting an audience on social media and having an entire plan for that. As you go forward in your career as an artist, your reputation is going to grow by word of mouth. And so you do want to try and keep up with posting on social media and attending local art events and get-togethers for artists and people who like to see art. In the end, networking is very, very important, and it is a huge asset to artists. And yes, many of us are quiet introverts who rather sit in a quiet room with no one, just creating art. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work out that way, and you cannot go off the grid painting to your heart's content. You really need to network. So you can start by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone with really small things first. As you gain more confidence with little steps, you realize that networking brings in more work for you, but always remember to be very gentle with yourself. If you feel uncomfortable or really uneasy going into an event, then it's fine not to go. There will be days where you feel you just can't attend an event, and that's fine. And there are going to be days where you feel really happy and confident going to an event, which is a win, so go for it. Also, don't forget to pat yourself on the back. Celebrate all your little victories. They really help you get to the big ones. And I wish all of you the best of luck on your art journey.